Since the days of Dallas and the legendary Who Shot JR, cliffhanger, few television dramas have held audiences as spellbound as Taylor Sheridan's. This neo-Western series, spearheaded by Oscar-winner Kevin Costner, surged towards international fame at a pace that outstripped all predictions. Yet, even amidst all the success, wasn't immune to backstage turmoil, and much of it stemmed from the strife between Sheridan and Costner. Reports suggest that Costner was displeased with the more somber path that John Dutton's character was intended to follow. As a dedicated cinephile, I've been following John's character development in Yellowstone closely through Kevin Costner's eyes. He sees John as a patriarch who fiercely guards his land and legacy, but the lines he's crossing lately make me uncomfortable. However, Taylor Sheridan's vision for the show has always been crystal clear. It's never been about simple plot twists. Instead, power struggles, blood feuds, and moral compromise are the heart of the series. The darkness we see isn't a recent addition to the storyline. It's been there since the beginning, woven into the very DNA of Yellowstone. If Costner is troubled by John getting his hands dirty, maybe the issue isn't with Sheridan's writing, but rather Costner's expectations of the character. Yellowstone was Taylor Sheridan's ode to Mario Puzo's mafia epic. Social media, Taylor Sheridan was very clear with the series' original pitch. In an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, creator and director Taylor Sheridan clearly outlined his vision for the series Yellowstone. He described it as a modern day take on The Godfather set in Montana. This wasn't just a catchy title for Sheridan. It served as the foundation upon which he built the entire structure of the series, including its main narrative. Originally, Yellowstone was intended to be a film. The story revolved around the Dutton family, who owned the largest ranch in Montana, and their battles that mirrored the Corleone family's struggles as depicted in The Godfather. Initially, Sheridan proposed the idea of Yellowstone to HBO, shifting it from a feature film into a more serialized narrative. Although HBO showed initial interest, they eventually declined the project, with executives voicing apprehensions that the show's focus on Middle America didn't fit HBO's high-end television identity. One executive is said to have commented, "It seems so ordinary." We are HBO. We are avant-garde. We are trailblazers. This feels like a regression. However, this setback didn't deter Sheridan from pursuing his vision. Sheridan moved the project over to Paramount Network, a place where it was warmly received by viewers. The show debuted in 2018, depicting the intricate relationships within the Dutton family. From its inception, Yellowstone never hesitated to reveal each character's more sinister traits, which is what initially drew audiences in. Despite being essentially good-hearted individuals, the Duttons didn't hesitate to make morally dubious choices. In the first episode, Casey Dutton, John's youngest child, ended up taking his brother-in-law's life, marking a pattern of violence and moral complexity that runs throughout the individual series. However, Rip Wheeler embodies a strong sense of self-appointed justice, going to extreme lengths, sometimes risky ones, to safeguard the ranch. Beth Dutton's relentless strategies to preserve her father's heritage add to the idea that Yellowstone shares similarities with The Godfather in its ruthless portrayal. Taylor Sheridan aimed to depict the American West not as a romanticized frontier, but as a contemporary battleground where power, loyalty, and survival are perpetually at odds. Kevin Costner's expectations of the role and Sheridan's vision were a recipe for disaster. Kevin Costner received a Best Actor in television series drama nomination for his Yellowstone role. Kevin Costner's portrayal of John Dutton in Yellowstone initially received praise, but as the show advanced, whispers emerged about Costner growing uncomfortable with the character's evolving storyline. More specifically, Costner felt uneasy as Dutton started to exhibit more moral ambiguity and violence. This development, according to Costner, contradicted the core values of family and land stewardship that defined the character initially. And Taylor Sheridan, the show's creator, acknowledged these concerns, explaining that Costner was troubled during season 2, and his response served as a reminder of the original concept behind the series. Sheridan emphasized that the main themes of the series revolve around power conflicts and the obscuring of ethical boundaries, similar to the plot of Speed. He conceded that while Costner primarily focused on Dutton's devotion to his family and the cowboy lifestyle, the initial story was intended to delve into the more sinister aspects and the weight of upholding such a family legacy. However, Sheridan did factor in these considerations when guiding the narrative during season 3, steering Dutton towards a path that resonated with Costner's vision. After making necessary adjustments, Costner's performance garnered significant praise, a Golden Globe nomination, and ultimately a win in 2023. Despite his initial concerns, Dutton's actions during season 2 were not deviations or betrayals of John Dutton's character as we knew it. From the outset, there were clear indicators suggesting the storyline Sheridan intended to tell, even taking into account Dutton's eventual demise. While it may have been hastily executed, it serves as a tribute to The Godfather in its narrative structure. Eventually, the disagreement between Costner and Sheridan over the character arc of Dutton didn't end there. Scheduling conflicts eventually arose as an additional challenge. It seems that Costner had reservations about his character's descent into morally ambiguous territory, which suggests he may not have fully grasped or appreciated Sheridan's vision for the show before joining it. In a way similar to how Michael Corleone didn't become a killer despite his family legacy, but rather because of it, John Dutton found himself on a similar path, whether he wanted to or not. The Godfather never asked for permission, and neither should John Dutton. The clash between Sheridan and Costner became just as epic as the series. Behind the scenes of the hit show Yellowstone may have seemed just as intense as what we see on screen, but upon closer inspection, it's not hard to understand. Like, Kevin Costner might feel unsettled. Unlike how some viewers might perceive it, Yellowstone was never intended to be a romanticized or nostalgic depiction of the American frontier. Certain Instead, from its inception, it was marketed as The Godfather set in Montana, a series centered around family legacies marked by bloodshed and treachery. Each episode of Yellowstone consistently supported this narrative. John Dutton wasn't cut from the usual cloth of a Western protagonist. He was indeed tied to his land and family, but it was the heavy price he paid in blood for their protection and preservation that defined him. Costner's critique hinted at a lack of complete connection or comprehension of the intricate moral nuances upon which the show was constructed. Despite Costner's exceptional portrayal adding depth to the series and turning Dutton into a legendary television patriarch, the rationale behind his concern that Dutton was becoming excessively merciless will remain inexplicable.